Peace, 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 everybody. Oh man, it's just looking beautiful. We got people still coming in. Where's everybody calling in from? We got Cleveland in the house. We got Milwaukee, Ariel from Milwaukee. Uh yeah, the chat is going up. This is beautiful. Want to welcome everybody to our mass call for the month of May in the year of our Lord 2024. We're very, very happy to have Claudia here. And very happy and excited to see each of you all coming into the room. This is our Black Men Build Mass Call. As you all know, this is a space that we have semi-monthly, but getting back to a monthly rhythm where we have sober analysis and conversations from the most important political figures, thinkers, actors, doers in our country and really around the world. And so we are incredibly excited about the conversation that we're going to have. And I think the response that we're getting from the chat and the attendance numbers are a reflection of the excitement that people feel about the conversation and your candidacy. And I want to let you all know that we're here in Columbus, Ohio, at the Columbus Hub, where all of us, yeah. So we're having our national retreat. So we got about 20 or so brothers and sisters in here tuned in. So we're just incredibly excited and joyful about this. We're gonna get right to it. It's my honor to be able to pass this mic here for the first time, literally, over to our Director of Political Education and Culture, Brother Ekundayo.
Peace, y'all. Peace. Oh, you need it. I'm gonna need you to sit back there for that light.
Oh,
yeah.
He needs me to block the light.
Need to block the light. The light's so powerful. Peace, y'all. So yeah, my portion of this is to have this, the conversation of why we're here. Claudia is here with us, and this is gonna be a beautiful conversation. What's up, comrade?
Oh, what's up, everybody? I'm very excited to be here. What's up, Phil?
What's up? How are you? I'm so happy to see you.
I'm good. Good. I'm happy to see you too, bro. It's good to see you again, Ekundayo.
Yeah. Claudia was here with Karina last week, and they lit it up on the campaign trail here in Columbus. But yeah, let's get into it. Our time is limited. We want to make sure we respect people's time. We have a lot of questions to get through. Really, it's a few questions, but they loaded. You know what I'm saying? We want to make sure that the people can really get the information of who you are, but also what you represent, your history, and how you and the party see what is possible for our people. But I want to start off with a bio. So I know a lot of people don't like this part, but bear through it. But they need to know who they're talking to. So it's an honor. It's an honor to have you. So I'm gonna read your bio. Claudia De la Cruz is a mother, popular educator, community organizer, theologian. Born in South Bronx to immigrant parents from the Dominican Republic, was nourished by Black and Caribbean working class communities in the Bronx, Washington Heights, in the 80s and the 90s. For nearly 30 years, Claudia has demonstrated a fierce commitment to building people power. She has actively participated and contributed in collective grassroots initiatives, particularly in the Black and Latino neighborhoods of Washington Heights and the South Bronx, communities that continue to play a special role in her political development and journey. As a young woman, she was exposed to many other communities in struggle from around the world. It's a long list, y'all. Like this is a beautiful legacy of struggle. From the Puerto Rican independence movement, the Palestinian struggle, the communities in exile from Chile and Colombia, to the solidarity struggles with Haiti, peasant struggles in Brazil, and the grassroots leaders from Venezuela organizing to Black liberation struggles to progressives and leftist Dominican community. So seeing people from all over the world standing for their dignity and their sovereignty only fortify her commitment to build international solidarity and political organization inside the United States. In 2004, Claudia, along with a group of 4 teenage women, co-founded and directed the Urban Butterflies. I know you. Hey, we got to give our flowers. You know what I'm saying?
You should have done all of this. If you ain't want to
this organization was a youth leadership development project, right, centered for young women from the Washington Heights community in the Bronx to build sisterhood, learn histories of struggle and resistance, and engage in collective action for justice. In 2007, she finished seminary school and became a pastor of her home church, serving the church in her position as pastor for 8 years. She served as, most recently, the co-executive director and co-founder of the People's Forum in New York City, a political education space, cultural home for working class organizers, leaders, intellectuals all over the country. If you're in New York and you ain't been there, as Anthony Edwards says, bring your ass.
Bring your ass.
Bring your ass. That's good. That's good. Yeah, good. She has led and participated in numerous international gatherings, events all over the world. Claudia has been a key convener of groups, social movements, and contributed to the overall conception and development of political education and cultural programming. She is running for president of the United States with the Party of Socialism and Liberation, with Karina, with a steadfast and clear conviction that there is a need to build political organization and a mass political movement independent from the two-party system of the ruling class. Please, y'all, welcome Claudia De la Cruz.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. That was long, but I appreciate I appreciate you for sharing that information.
Yeah, no
So
doubt.
thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. So actually, I want to start with, we did Who Do You Love? Let's start easy. Let's start straightforward. Let's ground. Who do you love?
Man, I love my son, which is a given. That little baby boy is my heart walking outside of my body. And I love my class. I love what working class people and poor people, starting from my own family, my grandmother, my mom, my dad, what they've given me in terms of values and principles and, an understanding of life that sustains me in this political work and just in this world, and has helped me navigate a lot of spaces that I was told I wasn't supposed to be in. And so I love my class, I love my people, and I love my baby boy so much.
Yeah. Shout out to the parents, shout out to the mothers and fathers, shout out to the step parents, shout out to anybody taking care of the youth. As some of our OGs say, we mother and we father before we birth.
That's right.
So yeah, let's hop in. So you've been busy, right? You've been busy holding it down. You most recently attended the historic People's Conference for Palestine in Detroit, which is also another historic place and a historic site of struggle for the working class, right? Working class struggle. How was it?
Well, the People's Conference for Palestine was very amazing. It was powerful. There were over 3,600 people who participated. And I think in a lot of ways brought together the energy of the last 7, almost 8 months, where people have, just intensified struggle that is anti-imperialist, that is pro-Palestine, and is very clear in the connections that we need to be making against US imperialism and capitalism. And so there were people from all over the country, all creeds, all races, all ethnicities, all nationalities, and intergenerational. And we had the amazing opportunity of listening from comrades and friends in the Palestinian movement in the United States and in Palestine. So we had some folks zoom in from the West Bank, and Sana Daka, who is the widow of a political prisoner who spent 30 years in prison and died in prison, and whose body still being kept by the colonial state of Israel, was there. And she presented and spoke with such strength and with such an affirmation of the need for us to break down the walls of apartheid, to continue to fight against ethnic cleansing and genocide, and with like a huge conviction that we will win. And so when people listen to that voice of that woman who experienced, her partner, her life partner being in prison for 30 years, having a child as a symbol of the resistance and the revolutionary love while he was in prison. Little Milad is like 8 years old, and I saw my baby when I saw that little baby on stage, being a kid, playing with her, playing with her jacket, telling her mom that her mom was her world. And you connect in so many ways, like the level of humanity that we need to be able to hold on to, because the colonial state of Israel, US empire, the ruling class of this country do everything they can to desensitize us and make us feel that we're so disconnected from the realities of the people in Gaza and the West Bank and in Palestine. And we need to do better at making the connections, because the same powers that are, you know, forcing a genocide there were the same powers that forced the genocide here and displaced and killed and still have a lot of indigenous people living in deplorable conditions. These are the same people that enslaved, that exploited, that killed, that persecuted, lynched, and continue to do that in so many different ways. And so we have the same enemies. So the strength that came out of that space was amazing. People came out with, just putting it out there, June 8th, which marks the eighth month of this genocide. Folks are going to be riding to Washington, D.C. Joe Biden said that Rafah was going to be his red line, that if Israel dared to put boots on the ground or do any type of, attacks on civilians, that would be his red line. But we saw just this week how people living in tents were bombed. 22 people were killed, mostly kids, mostly children. And so if that's not his red line, our red line, we're going to be the red line for Joe Biden. We're going to put our bodies out there and continue to fight this, because we have a role from within the United States to fight what the United States does, not only here in our neighborhoods, but across the globe. And so it was amazing. That's just me saying that it was powerful, and we need to create more spaces like that, so that we could be strengthened in our work.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know, I mean, you laid it out, right? We know capitalism is a global system. It is a poison that has infected everywhere on the earth, damn near.
That's right. That's right.
And a part of our resistance, and you were getting to that, right, is that there were people from all over, right, that came to one of the blackest places in the world.
That's right.
Detroit,
That's
right? Could you talk a bit more about why internationalism is really the only answer to not just ending genocide in Palestine, but struggle period, right? And in the world that we live in, why is it important that internationalism is the ideology, but also the practice of solidarity to actually win and move things?
Well, internationalism is the antithesis to U.S. imperialism. Like the only way we fight U.S. imperialism is through solidarity and internationalism, and understanding that the ruling class has ruling class internationalism. Capitalism is global, is not national. So it doesn't, whatever happens in this country doesn't only affect or impact working class people here, it impacts and affects working class people everywhere. And I think that that's what what's happening in Gaza right now is revealing to the world. Like, how is it that Congress could sit down and in a matter of hours put out a package deal for Israel that's $14 billion? How is it that they could do that, but they can't figure out how to solve the issue of housing? We have a housing crisis in this country. We have homelessness that it's above the 500,000 human beings that are living in the street, like more homelessness than we could ever imagine. We have, levels of unemployment or gigging that happens that is crazy. Like, people, in order to be able to make ends meet, have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 gigs, working 12, 13 hours. And we're living in the wealthiest country in the world. How is it that they can pay $1.7 trillion for a 6-year program that facilitates flyer jets, F-35s that don't work, $1.7 trillion, but they don't have money to eradicate student debt? The same amount, 1.7 trillion. So they make policy choices every day that promote and sustain poverty in this country. 800 people die in this country every day for poverty-related issues. And when we think about imperialism, we're talking about the exporting of that system. That's how we need to think about it. Is the exporting of a system that does all of what I'm talking about. We have a military budget that is almost $1 trillion. every year.
That number is even hard to even
If
understand.
that's like, if that isn't like
Really.
bananas to people, if that's not crazy, that
Yeah.
we have enough wealth to invest $1 trillion into the military budget, but we don't have enough to solve the basic necessities of the people in this country. And just, just putting it out there, when we talk about the US military, what does the US military do? They police the world. They are the forceful arm of domination all across the globe. That is imperialism. And so imperialism is not only out there, because that's another thing. They make us think like everything that happens outside of this country is none of our business. Like we don't have to care. As a matter of fact, they tell us that we don't have to care what happens to our neighbor. The big, slogan is you do you. You do what you got to do to advance what you need. But the reality is that in this country, there has never been anything that any working class person, any Black person has ever gained by themselves.
Yeah.
And even those who are Black capitalists sell their souls to capital.
Yeah.
And in any moment, they could be, I don't know, we could find the names of people that have been listed and thrown out of grace by capitalism. And so, and I'm not going to start mentioning names. We all should know who they are, from the corporate media to the athletes to, performers. They bring them up and they bring them right down, because ultimately when we're talking about politics, we're talking about power. We're talking about economic, political, and social power. And the fact that I was listening to the brother Babalola when he mentions, and I want to raise his uplift because I agree with him. Our ancestors, our people bled, they were hosed down, there were dogs that were set because our people were denied the very basic human right of voting. The very basic human right. But I believe that beyond that, our people, our ancestors gave their entire life for us to have power, not only voting rights. And so if we don't fight for the economic, political power in this country, we will continue to do what it's always done. Every 4 years, we vote for whoever is going to exploit us next. And we have to start thinking differently, because ultimately, when we're talking about fighting US imperialism, we're talking about fighting for our lives, the lives of the people we love, but also allowing the rest of the world to breathe. Allowing the people in Congo to breathe, allowing the people in Sudan to breathe, allowing the people in Latin America and Cuba. Cuba has had a blockade. The United States has blockaded Cuba for over 60 years. They steal $15 million a day from the Cuban economy. $15 million a day. And then they have the audacity to say that socialism is doing this to the people. No, capitalism does that, because we know that they do it here. They do it here. They do it in the ability that in the control that they have to have people like Bezos win 7.9 million, steal $7.9 million an hour
from the people,
while millions of Amazon workers are asking for $22 an hour. They are the ones that are building his wealth. He's stealing that from the people. The biggest theft in this country is wage theft. And folks that are in the South know that, because that's the biggest source of exploitation in this country. The South of this country, just like the South of the world, is the biggest source of exploitation for Wall Street and these bankers. And so when we're talking about US imperialism, the only way we fight it is with international solidarity, because God knows there are people who have been fighting this fight for decades. For as long as the US empire has been there, there have been people fighting across the globe. And the United States, the people here, have a role to play. We have a historic role to play, because we cannot be complicit with the same people that kill our people, that incarcerate our people in mass. We cannot, those are not our interests. And so we need to start working for the interests of working class people, not only here, but across the globe, because we are the majority with them. We are in isolation if we don't do that.
Yeah. You talked about I always appreciate how fired up you be. I mean, that's just I mean, honestly, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because it's important, right? And I think one thing that is, and you got to this, and I just want to mention this, right? You mentioned the importance of fighting here, right? Fighting in the belly of the beast with
That's right.
all of the propaganda, right? If anything, we probably have a more important task to struggle here than anywhere, right? Because we are here, because we are at the center, right, of imperialism, right? We have an important role. We have a historic role to end what's happening everywhere, right? The tentacles, all of, what is it, 1,000, military bases, right, around the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All of the appropriation, the extraction, all the wage theft, right? It starts here, right? The power, the lack of power that the union has is because of the power, right, of the U.S. imperialists, right?
That's right.
So just not to necessarily, none of these are pivots, right? The conversation is a continuum, but what I do want to actually, ask you, because what your politics are your own, but they're not, right? They are also a part of not just the party, right, but the struggle that you've been involved in. I want to know a bit more about why, maybe less so maybe why you personally are running, right? More so why, what is the strategy of the PSL, the Party of Socialism and Liberation, for running for president, right? I know there's many illusions and misunderstandings, and I want you to be able to be clear on and let folks know what is the strategy or tactic and why you're running.
That's a great question. And I like the way that you contextualized it, because it's not about me or Karina. I've been doing organizing and political work for 30 years, and never in my life did I ever see myself in this position, because I understand electoral politics in this country to be a sham, like most people do. There's a lot of people who don't vote, right? And I understood it to be a sham because neither the Democrats or the Republicans ever represented anything that had to do with me. And I understood that, in the halls of power, there was a lot of debates about a lot of things, but they never actually did anything that impacted my community in a positive way. And that everything that we ever earned as a people, we earned it to organize struggle. Like, I grew up in the 90s. I'm talking about Giuliani. I'm talking about Bill Clinton. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was and those of us who are still alive and didn't go to prison, we survived Giuliani and his politics. And if you don't know who Giuliani is, look him up, because Eric Adams is the equivalent of Giuliani and Bloomberg coming together and having a baby. That's how backward and scary it is. And so there was intense police presence. There was a intentional targeting of Black and brown young people for nothing. And during the Bill Clinton era, what we saw was also a lot of the jobs in Detroit, where the conference was held, were moved across the seas. And so a lot of people from a middle class, fell into poverty, lost homes. All of that happened. And I'm talking about Detroit, but it happened all across, because there were agreements that were made internationally that allowed for businesses to go exploit cheap labor elsewhere. And so they left people here to basically, to poverty. And so that's the context that I grew up. So I didn't necessarily look at those people for politics. What I did look for politics too was organizing, was agitating, was mobilizing, was building people power. And I was involved in a lot of anti-police brutality campaigns. I was involved in, campaigns to free the Puerto Rican political prisoners, that then became working with, the Jericho movement, and doing that at a national level for all political prisoners. And so my politicization came from the streets and came from organizing. Now, as someone who joined the party later on, I also came to the understanding of why socialists run. And a lot of our people, whether we want it, like it or not, are going to be talking about elections during election time.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be talking about, the two options that they're given that they most likely don't like, but they are forced to choose one. And so as socialists, when we run, we intervene to say we can build a third option. So we do it to build independent movements of working class people. And we do it to build a political instrument that has two forces, the forces in the street and the forces in the ballot. Because if you build a political organization that does not have the forces in the street, you run the chance of conceding to the so-called powers. And we've seen that. Like, a lot of people found out about socialism and socialist ideas through the democratic socialists, through Bernie Sanders, and went on and supported Bernie. Had mass support. Bernie could have won. But the Democratic Party basically shut that down rather quickly. And Bernie ceded. So anything and everything progressive that happens under or in the Democratic Party is crushed. That's where movements go to die, because they will not allow it. And they won't allow it so much that right now they could have identified someone else to run against Biden in these primaries. But they didn't, because if they do, they might run the chance to have someone who's progressive. The only person that can defend US imperialism and capitalism to the extent that Biden is doing is Biden.
Yep.
He represents that. And that is what they're going to uphold. And they're going to crush anything else that could potentially peek their head up. And so I think we need to be clear politically in the moment in which we are, where it is crucial for us to intervene. We launched the campaign September 7th. We didn't expect for October 7th to happen. We launched it a month before. But because we belong to a political party that has a clear line around Palestine, we didn't have to hold meetings to figure out what we were going to do. We knew that our political line towards Palestine is that we defend the total liberation of the Palestinian people. So what were we doing? We were all marching on October 8th while people were scrambling to figure it out. That's what political organization is. And so what we are attempting to do with this campaign is intervene in a way to fortify that political organization, is a way to be able to bring together movements and bring together leaders of different organizations. And I think we have a huge opportunity to do that now, because people are seeing the huge gap between the so-called leaders of this country and the people of this country. People are beginning to understand that the political parties, the two-party system, does not work for them. For example, socialists have been running campaigns since the 1920s. One of the first socialists to run was Eugene Debs in 1920, and he got 1 million votes from prison. Socialism ain't new.
Yeah.
Third party candidates, that's not new either. But at this moment, people have put their focus on third party options because the two options, we have a convicted criminal and a war criminal. Like, the two worst people in the United States are the ones that we are being given as options.
Right.
We deserve better. And people see it. And so people are looking for an option. And I think what we, again, are trying to do is do what we have done as socialists for many years in this country. And I say we because I'm part of a long tradition of socialists in this country, which is intervene in every and any space where our working people are. We don't have the option of not being engaged. And in fact, we want our people to be engaged with politics at all levels. We want our people to be able to register, their political ideas, their values, their consciousness in the ballot. They should have the right to do that. There's no reason why they're given two options that don't represent anything they're about. And so I think that, it's extremely crucial for us to be doing this. And we salute, and we are obviously hold a lot of respect for Dr. Cornel West and for Dr. Jill Stein and their history and struggle. And we are also, you know, significantly different in the fact that we are running explicitly as socialists, and that we are also running in those two aspects that I mentioned before, that we are in the need of building an independent movement of the working class that has feet on the ground in the communities, and also is represented in the ballot. One can't go without the other.
Indeed. Yeah. You mentioned, you know, our ancestors struggled what they struggled for, right? They struggled not for us just to vote. They struggled for us to vote our values, right? And you know, you hear you splitting the vote, X, Y, and Z, all that bullshit. The reality is that the goal is to vote your values, right? And if that is third party or wherever, right? Like that's what we want to encourage people, right? Not to always, if not, you're always going to vote for a lesser of two evils. And there isn't really a lesser. It's just an illusion that there's a lesser. I want to move into, you know, you brought up, you're talking about socialism. Let's actually go there for a bit. We know before we move into some Q&A. We have a piece called "Are You Afraid of Black Power?" Right? Who's afraid of Black Power? And it's a dope piece. You wrote that, Phil?
I did.
Okay, yeah, Phil. It's in the war. It's in wartime. It's in wartime. It's not in that one. It's in one of these. It's in one of them. Also, there's a video, so check out our YouTube page. Why are people afraid of socialism, right? Particularly, why are working class Black people afraid of socialism?
Well, you know, I love Malcolm. I love Malcolm for so many different reasons, because, you know, he did love us so, and he did teach us so much. And one of the things that he would speak about was about not trusting our enemies to teach us about who our enemies are. And we need to learn who our class enemies are. I mean, our class enemies have historically been in Wall Street, because guess what? Wall Street benefited from slavery and genocide. I mean, when we talk about the system that we have now, slavery and genocide of indigenous people were the down payment of the capitalist system that we have. So they're not our friends. And the only reason that they have allowed some people who look like us to be in those spaces is because they want to, in many ways, suppress the potential of revolutionary transformation that we have as Black and working class people. That is it. They gave us Oprah, they give us, I mean, you name it, they give us a list of people that we could be like, but we could be like them. And in reality, well, we might not even want to be like them.
Yeah.
And so we need to be clear on who our class enemies are. That's the first thing. And once we are clear on who our enemies are, then we could start identifying who our friends are. Like, for example, I mentioned Malcolm X, but Mother Moore, Queen Mother Moore.
Indeed.
Claudia Jones, MLK, Harry Haywood, Paul Robeson, Nina Simone, the Black Panther Party. You go down that list, and all of them were either socialist leaning or communist. And they were persecuted, not only because they were Black people, because they understood white supremacy, and they understood that white supremacy was intrinsically connected to the capitalist system. And they understood that it was connected to US imperialism. That's why a lot of them claim Pan-Africanism also as their politics. And so if we're up here uplifting these folks and saying, these are our heroes, and this is our ancestors, and this is our lineage, we need to learn their politics.
Yep.
Come on.
We need to learn their politics and what organizations they belong to, and how these organizations developed, and what were their downfall. And their downfall is that, again, anytime capitalism, US imperialism sees the potential of Black people organizing themselves, and I mean in political organization, being militant, being disciplined, and being clear and committed and connected to other working class people, once they see that, fear strikes their heart, if they have one.
Yeah.
But fear most definitely strikes them to the point that they cannot fathom it. They cannot. And so look at this. And this is just like 2014. Ferguson, you were there, Phil.
Yeah.
And people were out. And these were not people that were politicized. Working class people were out because they were tired. Like Mike Brown just like unleashed a whole bunch of suppressed feelings. And I was 7 months pregnant and I said, I'm gonna take this bus. I'm gonna go because the revolution is about to come. But guess what? Counterinsurgency happened, and it happened in many different ways. It wasn't only the police, it was also the nonprofits.
Yep.
It was also like democratic grant organizations or funded organizations that went there and were dangling all sorts of little prices to people who were actually doing work, but were not politicized, but did not understand their power. That movement was co-opted. And a lot of those organizations that were created imploded because the politics were missing. In 2020, historic rebellions across the country, historic mobilizations with George Floyd. What did they do? Well, we all got to come together because we have to, make sure that fascism doesn't come into.
Yep.
And now we got a war criminal, who has conducted genocide over 40,000 times, every life in Palestine. And he's totally okay with it. And he stands in front of a TV and says, I continue to support Israel.
We don't call that fascism, though.
So we need to, fascism's been here. Wasn't that what George said? Fascism has been here. And so George Jackson, Claudia Jones, all those people, WEB, they understood it. And so we need to understand that every time they say, wait a minute, if we turn into socialism, you won't have any freedoms. Okay, let's talk about the freedoms we have today. Right. Why is there mass incarceration? Why is there hyper-policing in our communities? Why is it that what freedoms do we have if we pay 70% of our rent to a landlord? What freedoms do we have if we have to enslave ourselves to get an education? Is that freedom? Oh no, we can't have socialism because you won't be able to own your house. Actually, if you own your house now, you best know that the bank owns your house.
Yeah.
And that you have a mortgage of 30 years. And if at any point they need to foreclose to save capitalism like they did in 2008, they will foreclose you. So socialism didn't do that. Capitalism did. Capitalism has kept the possibility of enslaving people in this country. The Constitution has not been revised in this country in 250 years. So if we think that somehow, some way we're not property of capitalism, we best to think again.
Indeed.
So we shouldn't be here to reform capitalism because capitalism is beyond reform. In fact, capitalism is facing an economic crisis, a political crisis, a social crisis, so much that it's increasing its brutality in the streets. When we think about the cop cities that are being built across this country, they're not just building them because they think they look pretty. They are waiting precisely for people to rise up because of the type of economic issues we're having, because of the type of political issues we're having. When you have cops coming into these encampments, middle class and upper class kids being beaten up over peaceful protesting, we got to think again.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. I want to keep cooking. I want you to keep cooking. Actually, I ain't have to say much. I do have a final question. This feels like not the question is a pivot, but the pivot. So after this, we're going to move into some Q&A. We have a few questions that we'll ask you from participants. Also, folks, if you have questions, go ahead and hit the Q&A. Submit your questions in the Q&A. If you put your questions in the chat, we may or may not see it. It's a lot of chat, a lot of messages. So if you got a question, put it in the Q&A. Lastly, and somewhat short, is so Black Men Build. We organize and we do a lot. We our strategies and our tactics is all centered in some way of building power for our people, for our community. One of the ways that we're committed to doing that is through some of our healing work with brothers across the country, right? And not like, that feels not a very corny way, but a real like way to really engage the level of harm that we have received because of the state, because of capitalism, imperialism, but also how we've done that to each other. And so, it's wartime. It's always wartime. And during war, there's wounds. And we need to heal our wounds. We need our brothers to heal so they can continue to even engage in the struggle, let alone to even join. Right. So it's not an isolated strategy, right? It's a tactic within the larger strategy. You're involved, as you mentioned, right? As you stated, you've been involved in a lot of different struggles and crises taking place around the world. You're also a mother, right? You're educated, right? You hold a lot, right? You do a lot. What are the ways that you rest and recuperate to continue to stay engaged? And what are the ways that you're grounded in struggle to help kind of balance all the things that are happening, right, in your life? How do you continue to stay grounded?
That's one of the hardest questions to ask.
To ask you about global imperialism and everything, but this is the one that you're gonna get stumped on.
Ask me geopolitics. Ask me. The reason that I'm saying, the reason that I'm saying is, it's one of the most difficult ones is because we have to deconstruct and reconstruct a lot of ourselves. To be in movement. I think that there's many ways in which I'm humbled every day by a lot of people, ordinary people that are not in political spaces, because everything is political, right? Like if you go to the salon, the barber shop, pizza shop, like it's regular conversations. And they might be talking about political things, in ways that are contradictions. Like our people have a lot of contradictions. And so there's a certain level of like social investigation that I like to do that's actually very healing. Like I like to ask people, what do they think about certain things? Just to get, that level of like conversation that you don't get if you're like zoned into certain things, especially with the campaign. I think, you're always on the go. So you can't really, you connect obviously with the communities when you go and you visit them and you speak with people and everything, but it's different if you don't have that in mind. Like if you're going to go get a pizza or you're in the salon and you're sitting and you talk to people about whatever, you get a sense of where people's minds and hearts are. And I think that that's what I've always been drawn also to culture, because culture has a way of doing that, of like figuring out where people's hearts are and how to move them. And so to me, that's healing. Like just to get to be in conversation with people that are not going to be giving me political speeches. Like I want to be able to know what you're listening to, why are you watching what you're watching, what type of crap TV you're into, because I want to be able to have a sense of where people's minds and hearts are. And even, at some point I might come back and be like, I have a Marxist criticism of that, but it's, it's okay. I can hold that. I could hold these contradictions too. I enjoy being with my son. He loves to play chess. So when I went to Columbus, actually, and I went to the hub there, I was so impressed. I told you, I was like, I was loving these 3 chess pieces and all that. And I was like, man, I wish we had something like that where he, could go to. And I know Brooklyn's there, but Brooklyn's a little far from where I'm at. But but I feel like being able to be with him and learn from him too is also awesome. He has a lot of creativity and a lot of things, and listens to a whole bunch of stuff that I wouldn't even imagine. Meditating and working out and writing also helps. Studying and writing helps me a lot. So I take at least 10 minutes of my day to do that, to read, write, I try to go to the gym at least 30 minutes in the mornings or run. You just keep my mind clear because it's a lot.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's good to, it takes a lot of discipline to do all the things. And a part of that is, you know, taking care of self and allowing community to help us take care of each other. So we're gonna move in to Q&A. So we have our first question. You wanna actually
Yeah. So thank you for your time. So we're gonna move to some of the questions. We have a question from Dr. Randolph Carr. What does Claudia make of Daruba's recent call for a united front against fascism? We know he issued that call, and there were a few candidates that were able to respond with our partners at Black Power Media. Wanted to know what you think of his recent call.
I think his recent call is on point, actually, and it's timely as well. And I wasn't able to respond to it because I wasn't here. I wasn't unable to participate because I was traveling that day. The reason that I say that it's on point and it's necessary is because nothing has been gained. No revolution has ever been achieved without a certain level of unity or united front. You look at Cuba, Venezuela, you look at, you know, the USSR, you look at the China, like there has always been the need to build a united front. I feel like it's important for us to actually dive into what it means to build a united front, though, because it's not romantic. Like we can't do it on the basis of romanticism, and we can't do it on the basis of unity for unity's sake. It's a strategy that needs to have a political vision for the future, and in which groups are able to maintain their integrity and their principles. And that's where the tough part comes, because when we are talking about maintaining our integrity and our principles, it means that if you come from a political organization that, again, has feet on the ground, that has membership, not online, but members that are actually actively working across the country, you're accountable to that membership. You're not a one-person show. And so I think, you know, we need to be really clear when we're talking about united fronts, that we're talking about a construction, a building of something that takes more than 5 months. Because if unity isn't built on the basis of, again, principles, an actual political platform or agenda, and like understanding that we will have to compromise, but understanding that we won't negotiate certain things. And so it takes time. Anyone that has ever been in a relationship, and I'm assuming everybody on this call has been, to be in a relationship, you need trust. And trust is also built in the work, in putting in the work.
Yes.
And so again, I am totally, like, I think, you know, we have great relationships, like I mentioned before. Dr. Cornell West and Dr. Jill Stein have been invited, have participated in a lot of the spaces. I mean, the People's Forum has had them in several events. The Party for Socialism and Liberation as a party has also invited them, and we've been in different spaces together. And there's a lot of alignment. And there's also the significant difference that we, again, are socialists. We're not socialists. You're like eco-socialists and like socialists in this branch and not socialists in the other. Like, we're a socialist organization. And so in order for us to be in conversation, that needs to be something that is also clear.
Yes. Thank you for that. So we've had this question asked in a number of different ways in the Q&A and with some brothers here in the room, sisters and brothers in the room. Hypothetically, something happens, you're elected president, you are president, you're in the Black House. What does a socialist plan for the first 100 days look like? I think, though, this question may seem like, you know, why I do think it's important, and I think we all think it's important we want power. And so what does it look like in that post for you all? What does the first 100 days, or what are the first 5 things? What does your platform require that you move on immediately when you're in that place?
I mean, there's a lot of things,
Right.
you know, I think, and I would invite folks, this is actually what we've thought about. there's this book called The Socialist Reconstruction, and I pulled it out just because this is the vision not for the first 100 days, but for the first 10 years.
Okay, this is our project 2025.
And again, this is not written on stone. Is a proposal to movement folks, to folks on the left, to progressive folks, to think through what a socialist society could look like in this country and how we would move. But I think in the first piece is that there needs to be the freedom of all political prisoners. There needs to be the pardon to Julian Assange. Like,
okay, that
needs to happen. We need to be able to seize the top 100 corporations. And again, there are over 750 corporations in this country holding a lot of money that belongs to the people. Like I mentioned earlier, you have a Jeff Bezos that during COVID was able to buy a spaceship while his people, the people that were making him that money, were actually losing legs, limbs, and dying. And so they're just like Bezos and Amazon, there's Apple, who does a lot of dirt in Africa. And so what would happen if we take those top 100 corporations? That would mean that the profit motive that actually drives the exploitation will be eliminated. What would it mean for people not to have to deal with health insurances? In order to do that, you need to seize a corporation that actually deals with health insurances and big pharma and make it a public utility. So we're going to have to do that as well. We're going to have to look into the criminal justice system and look at all the different violations. I mean, it's a lot of work that will entail a lot of people on board. And that's why I'm saying that it needs to have people, whatever we do needs to have people on the ground that are supporting this, and people in politics supporting this as well, because this is not a task of one party. It's going to take millions of people to do this, but it's possible. And so in the first 10 days, somebody said it's worth the work. It's definitely worth the work, because we're talking about our liberation. You know, all these different cops that we know, we have their names, who have killed Black, brown, poor, white, working class kids on these streets, need to be in prison. Like, obviously we want to work for not having to deal with cops, not having to deal with prisons. But you know what? In the transition between the society we want and where we're beginning, we're going to have to hold these people somewhere. So they need to be there.
Yes.
Joe Biden needs to be there.
Yeah, he needs to sit. He needs to sit somewhere.
Blinken, all of them. You know what I'm saying? We need to be able to lift the blockade from Cuba, lift the sanctions from Venezuela and the rest 70 somewhat countries that U.S. has sanctions to.
Come on.
We have to shut down NATO, shut down AFRICOM, the Southern Command. So there's a lot to be done, but it's possible.
It is. There's a lot of work to do. Thank you for answering that, because I think it's really important. And there's a brother Rolando who was asking for a full pardon for what he wanted to do to Mitch McConnell. So it's good to know that your platform is gonna reach that brother as well.
Yes.
And then I think we have one final question. We want to be able to do this again. I think that there's so much work to do, and you are such a skilled communicator. I've always personally looked up to your ability to convey the beauty of this huge vision that we have for the world in very plain terms and with a lot of joy. Which links, I think, to this last question from someone named Naeem Holman that they dropped. And I think it's good because of your gifts, because of your ability. And I think this is something that the left has to do better at. But their question is, what are some ways that your campaign, our movement, can connect to the average Black person and their quote unquote kitchen table issues? It often feels like there's a disconnect in that we can talk over folks versus talking with or to them. I don't think you do that. I don't think many of the folks in this room do that, but I think there's a real opportunity for us to break these things down into the material benefits for our people. And so can you go ahead and give us that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes we could ever make is gaining knowledge and then being judgmental. judging people for what they don't know. I think that we need to humble ourselves every time we're in conversation with our people and love them dearly, love them so much that we are able to be compassionate about the lack of access to information that we've all had. And so if we try to understand where our people are coming from, ask questions. I think there was a moment where I read somewhere, I can't never remember, I'm going to have to look and research into what, but Malcolm went fishing. And for every statement he thought of, he asked 5 questions. And that seems less imposing. Why do you think the way you do? Where did you get that information from? Have you considered this instead? But what about this information? And you introduce new information, right? But that means that you need to do your work also of looking to the information and having that loving debate, that courageous conversation with your people. For example, I have those conversations all the time with my mom. My mom was raised in, she was born 1954. She's 70 years old. She has a lot of concepts, notions of what women should do, what men should do, how I should be raising my child, how I should not be raising my child. And so we get into this debate, but it's always in a very respectful and loving way, to the extent that, I push the envelope a little bit more for her to think about, is there a new way?
Yeah.
And if she doesn't leave the conversation convinced, she would at least leave the conversation thinking critically about her position. And I think that that's what we need to be able to do. We don't need to start by saying, I'm a socialist and this is what I believe. That's not the best place to start.
Terrible organized.
The best place to start is, what are the concerns? What are some things that you feel like need to be changed? What are some of the things that you're struggling with? What are your people struggling with? If it's an issue of like mass incarceration and you want to connect it to political prisoners, there's those political prisoners that were in jail because they wanted to fight for liberation, but there's economic prisoners. There's people that have engaged in, petty crimes and have done things that poverty has driven them to do. You do that from a loving place, being able to make the connections with our people and always, again, planting the seed.
Indeed. Close it out. Okay. On that note, to our sister, we just love you. We appreciate you. We value you. Yeah. See it in the room. See it in the room. 3 to the 9. Love to the 9. All the time. Listen, we love you. I hope you see the love in the chat. You have been an organizer, a lover of our people, a leader of our people of the highest order. And we have great admiration and great love and appreciation for your sacrifice and your continued love and commitment, and for always elevating us and teaching us. And we are grateful for your time on this call, and we wish you nothing but maybe a little bit of rest as you continue on the trail, and continue teaching us and inspiring us. So thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you all. And I always tell you, Phil, because you're the one that I've known for a longest period of time. I love you dearly. I love Black Bed Build. I love my comrade Kundayo. I love the spaces you build. Keep building them. Keep strengthening our people. Keep strengthening Black men.
Okay.
Because we need that. Capitalism will tell us no. Capitalism will limit our Black people, our Black men, will incarcerate us. We have to be free. And we have to be free at all levels. And so I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much. And I can't wait to go back to Columbus with my baby so he can play chess.
Yeah. Anytime. Anytime.
Yo, we can't wait to see you, and thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. All right. Listen, on this note, we're not over yet. The call is not over yet. We want to really move on the note that Claudia left us on, y'all, we are building Black Men Build. We're here in our Columbus hub, the house that brother Ernest built, the house that brother Ekundayo, brother Kamal is building, all these other brothers in the room are building, and sisters. We have hubs all over the country, and we want you all to be a part of what we're building. We have an exciting year coming up and an exciting summer in particular. This year, we're going on tour. Black Men Build is going on tour. We're calling it the New Men Tour. You're going to get an email, a text. You're going to see a press release, hopefully see a billboard. You're going to get a message about the New Men Tour starting next week. But we're going across the country, starting off in July in New Orleans. We're going to Raleigh after that, then to Dallas, I believe Milwaukee, St. Louis, Columbus, Ohio, Detroit. We'll be in Los Angeles, Atlanta, and Miami. We're going all over. We're coming to LA, and we're going to be doing our circles and having some real conversations about the political moment, what we're all facing, what we're all up against, and the real need for Black men to really step up to the table, not at the expense of other people in our community, not in front of other people in our community, but at their side, at their front, at their back. And when called to be leaders, that we can be leaders. We need to meet this moment. We need to rebuild our circle. And so we want you to join us on the New Men Tour. It kicks off, as we said, in November. You will be receiving an email about it, a text about it. You will see it on our website and our social media. Our communications director, Jeremy, is working day and night to get everything going. We'll probably, I don't know, we're going to have banner drops everywhere. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're moving around the country, and we want you all to be a part of what we're building. We're very serious about this, and what comes with that seriousness is a dedication and a commitment to really doing this work, to be an ally with our partners. We're excited to have our sisters and brothers with PSL represented so heavily on this call. All of the folks, Black Collective out in Miami, Action St. Louis and St. Louis, our people at Project 47 in Los Angeles, Black Male Initiative in Atlanta. We're aligned and working with brothers and sisters and organizations around the country. Who is that? Oh, InfraBL, shout out InfraBL. We're working with any and everybody who's about the business of Black liberation and Black freedom. And as Brother Ace said in our values, we're not rooting for everybody Black. So if you're not with the shits, you can just run with us or run from us. So we're excited about the opportunity to be able to build and see each and every one of y'all. We love and appreciate you all for being on. I want to give a little bit of an opportunity also to our development coordinator. Our development coordinator has been working day and night to ensure that we have the resources needed to really be able to raise the money for the organization. I want y'all to give a little shout out, if you can, to Maya Curry, who's done a lot of work to grow our organization and move our organization. I'm going to give her an opportunity to show you all around the Columbus hub and show you all why you all should be sustainers and donors to the work that we're doing in the organization. So let's see if we can do this correctly. It's our first time doing it like this. Maya, you are now a panelist. I'm going to put this on mute.
Okay, can everybody see and hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So first of all, I just want to give everybody a big congratulations in the room next to me for an incredible mass call. That was an awesome conversation with Claudia, talking about her campaign for president. We're very proud of the work she's doing and doing in partnership with the PSL. I want to talk quickly about the work that I'm doing here with Black Men Build and introduce myself and talk a little more about our fundraising campaign and the amazing hub space that we're in. My name is Maya. I started with the organization in February, working on development for the organization, and it has been an incredible journey over the last 4 months to build some new programs out and to work with our funders and partners to bring more resources to the organization. We are here in Columbus, Ohio, at the incredible Columbus Hub. I'm going to take you on a tour around the space to show you some of what we have going on here and let you know about what we're working towards and what our fundraising goals are. We're in the incredible Columbus Hub space. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. I'm going to show you some parts of it and talk about what our goals are and what it is we have going on. This year, Black Men Build has a $3 million overall fundraising goal. That $3 million that we are raising will go a long way towards building out this hub and others like it across our 8 hub locations throughout the nation, as well as the other 8 hub locations that we're building out in other cities. In this room that I'm in, we have artwork, we have a community space, We have lounge area, we have working space. We have so much incredible space that is in progress and further being built out for the benefit of the Black Men Build and the Columbus Hub community. I'm going to take you into a second room in this space here where you can meet some of the members and some of the Columbus Hub organizers. I want you to imagine what happens in this space. Men's circles happens in this space. Community programming happens in this space. Art happens in this space. And when you contribute to our fundraising campaign, you can be a part of helping us to build this work out and to expand upon what's being done here. I just want to give one of the hub leaders, Kamal, an opportunity to address the room.
Peace was good. Welcome from Columbus, Ohio. I'm glad you're on the call. Really amazing conversation. Representing from Columbus, you're here in our hub. It's all love.
Thank you, Kamal. This room right now is configured very similarly to what a men's circle will look like. Our national and hub leadership met today in somewhat of a circle. We'll be in a circle tomorrow. And this is what the community looks like that we're building. I'm going to take you a little farther back into the space. The space is raw, it's unfinished, it's rough, but imagine what this could look like with your support and engagement and resources to make this more than what it is today, how much further we could build this out, and how much more can be done here. So as I mentioned, our overall fundraising goal is $3 million for the year, and we're looking to raise at least 40,000 of that from individual donors like you. There's going to be a link dropped in the chat shortly where you can go on and lend your support to our organization, and we hope you'll consider making a gift to our fundraising campaign. I'm going to take you in one more room. This is our national hub leadership, our field team, and we're all here for our mid-year retreat. This is another room in the space, and again, beautiful artwork, beautiful community space. And when you support our fundraising campaign, you'll be contributing to spaces such as this in places like Columbus, in Brooklyn, New York, in Milwaukee and Miami, in the other cities and locations that we have hubs. So check out the link in the chat, make a gift to our fundraising campaign today. If everybody here drops some money towards it, we'll be that much closer to our goal. Thank you.
Hey, that worked out well. Thank y'all to everybody that thank y'all to each and every one of you all that stayed on for the conversation. We're deeply grateful for everybody that was on. Once again, shout out to Claudia. Shout out to everybody that joined. We love and appreciate y'all. And as always, peace to the nines. Love to the nines. Power to the nines. All the damn time. And Asa closes out. Peace if you're willing to fight for it. Peace if you're willing to fight for it.
Let me start over. Peace to the nine. Peace to the nine. Power to the nine.
Power to the nine.
Power to the nine.
Power to the nine.
All the damn time.
All the damn time.
All the damn time.
All the damn time.
And peace to you if you're willing to fight for it.
Yeah.